If the jury foreperson could please rise. Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
We have.
If you please can hand the verdict form to the bailiff. Having reviewed the verdict form, it is in its proper order. At this time, I will publish the verdict. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1 of the indictment, first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder. Mrs. Adelson.
Tallahassee, Florida, July 18th, 2014. A law professor named Dan Markel pulls into his garage and is shot twice through the window of his car. At first, it looks like a robbery gone wrong. It was not. It was a murder for hire, ordered, prosecutors would say, from inside his own family. This is the state of Florida versus Donna Adelson. 3 counts: first-degree murder, conspiracy, and solicitation to commit murder. The former mother-in-law, the matriarch, and she was facing the rest of her life.
Is that enough, Judge?
I can hear you.
Thank you for letting me speak. My son-in-law, Dan Markel, was a fine and decent man. He was well-educated and passionate about his career. He was a good son-in-law, but more importantly, he was a caring and loving father. On July 18th, 2014, his car was followed, leaving his home. It should have been just like any other day, an ordinary day in the life of Ben and Lincoln's father, but it wasn't. He didn't know when he left his boys off at daycare that would be the last time he would see them, and the last time they would see him. He didn't know when he went to the gym afterwards that would be the last time he would exercise. And he didn't know when he drove home that his life would end within minutes. Danny wasn't just being followed, he was being hunted. He was brutally murdered in broad daylight, sitting in his car, in his garage, by vicious killers. I cannot imagine the terror he felt when he saw a gun pointed at him through the window of his car. I cannot conceive of his heroic efforts to stay alive during the hours after the attack. Danny died in the early morning hours of July 19th. His death.
To convict, a Florida jury must be unanimous and certain beyond a reasonable doubt. And first-degree murder here carries only 2 possible sentences: death or life in prison without the possibility of parole. There is no lesser version of that charge. The state's theory was simple and chilling. Dan Markel died because Donna Adelson wanted her grandchildren moved to South Florida, and a bitter custody battle stood in the way.
Mrs. Adelson, control yourself. Count 2. We, the jury, find as follows as the count 2 of the indictment: conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Count 3. We, the jury, find as follows as the count 3 of the indictment: solicitation to commit first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of solicitation to commit first-degree murder. And it is signed and dated by the foreperson. One moment. Members of the jury, the bailiff will escort you to the jury room. Mrs. Adelson, while this was not the outcome I'm sure that you desired, there will not be any further outbursts in front of the jury. If you cannot control yourself, I am going to have to determine if you will be removed from the remainder of this process.
For years, the case stalled. The 2 hitmen were caught, The middle woman was caught. But the family stayed silent, so the FBI tried something audacious. An undercover agent approached the Adelsons, posing as an extortionist, hinting that he knew about the murder and demanding to be paid. Investigators called it the bump. And it worked. In the days that followed, the wiretaps caught the family talking, the money, the panic. And when the walls finally closed in, Donna Adelson booked a one-way ticket to Vietnam. Federal agents arrested her at the airport gate.
It is interesting how the state can't make up its mind about who is what they call the, quote, mastermind behind this murder. In both of Catherine Magbanaw's trials, the state claimed she was the mastermind behind Danny's murder. In my son Charlie Adelson's trial, they claimed he was the mastermind. And now in my trial, they claimed that I, this grandma, was the mastermind behind the murder. I had no idea that other people planned to cut Danny's life short. And the people who did this are exactly where they deserve to be. But I had no knowledge that this horrible, evil act was going to take place. If I had become aware of this plan before Danny was murdered, I would have stopped it. With not one iota of actual evidence, the state convinced a Tallahassee jury that I solicited and conspired with other people to have Danny killed. Where is the evidence prior to the murder? The evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that the state needed to prove their case. Where is the evidence before July 18th, 2014 at 10:50 in the morning?
Before you continue, Mrs. Adelson, as it relates to this statement, is the defense trying to re-argue the trial?
No, Judge, just giving Mrs. Adelson an opportunity to be heard.
Mrs. Adelson, you certainly can continue. However, the court can take into consideration the utter lack of remorse that you are displaying. Please proceed if you desire to do so.
Where is the evidence before July 18th, 2014 at 10:50 a.m. that revealed that I had any involvement in this vile and horrific act? Where is the solicitation and conspiracy evidence? The state needed to show that there was evidence before the murder to convict me. The state couldn't show that because there wasn't any evidence. They were trying an innocent person. It makes you wonder if the jurors were sleeping when the state had Sergeant Corbett on the stand for hours. Their own star witness testified that my phone was never, I repeat, never at my son's house on the night of the murder. The state's theory that my husband and I dropped off money to my son was blown. What happened to Danny is unforgivable. But I am an innocent woman convicted of this terrible crime without evidence. Danny was a brilliant legal scholar. He would have been appalled at the total lack of justice that went on during my trial. He would have been embarrassed to have his name associated with any of it. There are two crimes here. The first was Danny being viciously murdered. The second one is taking my life, the life of an innocent woman. Convicting me should not be retribution for Danny's death. That is not justice for Dan. I've always respected the law. I've never gotten a parking ticket, but I'm going to prison for a murder I did not commit. I do intend to file an appeal so that hopefully I have the opportunity to be given a fair trial outside of Tallahassee. 11 years ago, Danny was murdered and taken from all of us who loved him. For the past 9.5 years, the state has broadcast to the world, including Danny's parents and sister, that I hired hitmen to kill him. Never in a million years would I have wanted Danny to be harmed or killed, nor could I ever do something that would leave these two small boys to grow up without him. love these boys more than life itself. This is a lifetime of loss for these children. They didn't deserve this. His family didn't deserve this. Danny didn't deserve this. And so, as I appear before you today, Your Honor, I promise you with my whole heart, I swear to you on my life, I was not involved in any way with Danny's murder.
After roughly 3 hours, the jury returned. Guilty of first-degree murder, guilty of conspiracy, guilty of solicitation, on every count. And on October 13, 2025, the woman who set it all in motion learned her sentence. Life in prison without parole, plus 30 years and 30 more. Dan Markel was 41 years old. If this is the kind of case you can't look away from, subscribe to VerdictCam and stay for the moment justice lands.